Welcome back to Play Tessie. If you're listening on drop day, it is March 6th and it's episode 48. The Pablo Sandoval and Andrew Kashner episode. It's a cursed episode. And if you're looking for a positive, happy-go-lucky, looking on the bright side type of podcast, I don't think you're going to find it here. But we're here to break everything down. This is the official podcast of Insert Therapy sponsor here, also known as the official Red Sox podcast of WEI. Before we get into all the depressing news of the day, just remember to hit that subscribe button. If you're on Odyssey, Apple, Spotify, wherever you're listening, hit that 5-star button, hit that subscribe button, get those notifications when we drop episodes. If you're on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to WEI. We've got our own playlist there, and every episode's going up there, and it's pretty great. But what isn't pretty great is the news that Lucas Giolito, according to Jeff Passan, has a partially torn UCL and a flexor strain, I believe is the other thing, and is likely to miss the entire 2024 season. This was the big investment that the Red Sox made in the offseason, signing Giolito to what we all thought was basically just a one-year contract. But now, in wake of this, he has a player option on that, and since he's not going to pitch, he's almost certain to pick up that player option. So I want to kind of just kick it right to Pat. Can you guys hear my dog screaming in the background?
Your dog is so pissed about this thing. Listen, what's your dog's name?
Chester.
I'll
bring him on the show at some point today. He'll make his debut today. I've posted him on Twitter, but he hasn't made his debut. He's been in a barky mood. He's been screaming. He likes to climb on the couch, look above the street, and bark. So I'll mute myself. I want to kick it to Pat. Pat, just break down. You told us in the text chat you basically did an hour-long presentation on this exact type of injury. So I want to just kick it to you, and you break down everything that fans need to know about this diagnosis for Giolito.
Yeah. So off the bat, I forget who it was. I want to say it was Justin MLB was saying like, oh, like how doesn't this show up on medical records? Like blah blah blah. All it takes is one throw, So I was given permission to nerd out. I'm going to nerd out. So overhead throwing is not an anatomically correct motion. Like no one should be allowed or like physically able to do it. That being said, one wrong, this, you like that bicep, can tear the UCL. So this is something that can just happen, which it's the way it sounds like, because he had no elbow discomfort prior to his start the other day. After the start, he said, my elbow is really bothering me. So that being said, the MRI comes back today. The flexor strain does not fucking matter. Does not matter whatsoever. The partial UCL tear matters. That's not good. And then I saw someone, I can't think of who it was, liken it to Trevor Story, because Story had the ongoing elbow thing. It was partially torn, but he played in 22, like all this stuff. He ended up needing the surgery, all this stuff. That's different. 20, 30-foot throw from second base 4 or 5 times a game compared to ideally 100 every 5 days. That's much different. So conservatively treating a partial UCL tear is possible. Not likely here.
Is it risky?
It's incredibly risky because it almost always ends up with that said person needing a UCL surgery.
Do you guys remember when David Price had something similar in spring training? I want to say of 2017. It was either 17 or 18. And he was hurt in spring training, and they all thought he needed Tommy John, and he rehabbed it. And I remember at the time I was all pissed off because I was like, that they're doing this, and now he's gonna end up needing to miss 2 seasons. He didn't. He ended up kind of being okay, but we've also seen the flip side of that. I want to say Jacob deGrom might have had the other end of the spectrum there, not this recent time, but I think with the Mets at one point.
Yeah, the difference with that, especially in Giolito's case, is he has had Tommy John, which is not great for someone who has another UCL injury. First time, if it's a minor tear, like, okay, like Price never had elbow issues. You're like, this might work if we rest it, like work around it, like all this stuff. Giolito's had Tommy John. That's kind of out the window at this point. I think Breslow's being pretty coy until they can get a second MRI to look at it. All likelihood, he 100% is getting surgery. And the thing that sucks, and I feel bad even like putting the thought out there, is so partial tear is actually good in some circumstances. If it's a partial tear off of either your humerus or your ulna, you can get the surgery that Trevor Story got, which is the UCL repair. The repair takes an anchor and anchors it to each bone through the ligament. The research has every single person who gets that surgery back on the field, not throwing, on the field playing in 6 months. The downside with that is to qualify for that surgery, the tissue needs to be viable, meaning it can't be a chronic elbow thing. The tissue still has to be really good to get that surgery. Lucas Giolito's already had Tommy John, so that tissue is likely not viable. So
right. I was going to say it feels less likely with him having had that prior, even though he hasn't had really any injury of almost any kind since that time. And that was like when he was coming out of high school.
That was 12 years ago, yeah.
But still, like, you had it.
And the thing that sucks with that is, let's say it was his first time doing a UCL, with any UCL injury. The surgery hasn't been done on any major league pitcher, but let's just say he got it done. He was the guinea pig, got it done, whatever. It sucks because that timeline would allow him to be, I doubt they would activate in September when he would be like ideally cleared. The upside too, if he got that surgery, would be he would have a completely healthy offseason.
Right. You would go into 2025. Like that's in my opinion, the argument to not mess with this. Don't rehab. Don't like go after the rehab.
You shouldn't. Really, and I doubt that they are not forethinking enough to even try and push that. Because then the worst part is if you try and work around it, and they're not stupid. They know he's picking up that option next year at this point.
And they also know they've come out and basically said what this year is. They're not going to they're not going to take crazy risks to try to get him on the field in 2024, a year they've openly admitted is not a going for it year.
So then now coming back to reality, knowing what's kind of on the forefront is he will, I'm not saying 100%, I will say 85, 90% is getting a second Tommy John. At best, like it's going to be with James Andrews, Dr. James Andrews. He does everybody's ACLs. He does everybody's UCLs. He's the best sports surgeon in the world. If everything goes absolutely pristine, he can pick up a baseball. I'm saying like 40-foot throws, throwing it like 20 times at about the 16 to 18 week mark, which is about 4.5 months. Then you're talking about.
Okay, you said pick up a baseball. Okay,
yep.
Go on.
And then James,
he's out, right? Like there's no way we're not going to see him.
He's out for the year. He's out for the year.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but the thing is, like, 5 months, pick up a baseball, blah, blah. James Andrews has a super intense return to throw program. He is likely lined up for a clearance off the mound, not game, off the mound throwing, interval off the mound throwing at about the 8-month mark. 10 months is when you actually start throwing bullpens. So in my eyes, he won't even be ready for opening day next year, likely.
No. We've been down this road so many times with different guys, and we've seen it with other teams. Like these guys, you said if it goes pristine, it never does. Not with an injury like this. So if you're, and I think for the sake of this podcast, we should just assume he's getting the Tommy John. Like we don't have to keep saying if whatever. Like he's gonna get it, and I would say you'd probably be safest as a fan to just count him out until the All-Star break next year. And if he beats that, then you're happy. And that sucks.
I think next year, I would say like expect him back about May, June-ish. Because they're not just going to throw him. Because the other thing too, which we kind of saw with Sale a couple years ago, you can't just throw someone out from bullpens into a game. Once he's throwing bullpens, he's going to AAA. He's starting 4 or 5 games in AAA. Then he's coming up on a pitch count. Like you're looking at, I would say, May to be back in minor league ball in ideally like late June-ish for MLB back on a pitch count.
Great.
Yeah. So Cooper Criswell, though, that's awesome.
Yeah. We should. I mean, I've got so many goddamn thoughts. I want to start off by just taking a look at where we stand right now in 2024. Look back at what this team had in 2023. Because like in reality, like we're gonna watch all of these games this year. We're gonna endure this season. So we're gonna talk about this season, what we see this season, what we're gonna see this season, what we can expect from the season. Last year, they had a staff that had a reasonable quantity of starting pitchers, but a lot of them had injury concerns and maybe a lack of experience and injury concerns in some cases, both. That staff lost Corey Kluber, whatever. They lost Chris Sale and they lost James Paxton. They did that so that, like, they lost those guys and were okay losing those guys because they were injury prone. And in Kluber's case, he retired. But Chris Sale, you could probably count on missing time. James Paxton, we saw with the Dodgers, he lost money because they flagged something in his physical. Like that's a guy we know has not been healthy. They then signed Giolito because over the course of his career, he has not missed extended time due to injury ever. Anyone who is blaming the Red Sox for this is, and Pat, you said it can happen on one throw.
Yeah.
Like you're just wrong if you're going at the Red Sox and saying that this is something they should have planned for. But the fact of the matter is they have lost 2 of their best starting pitchers from last season. Chris Sale and James Paxton were 2 bright spots from last season when they were on the field. Those guys are gone. They're not coming back. They're not coming back from injury at any point. And they added right now nothing except for Cooper Criswell because you're not going to see anything from Giolito. And Criswell is the only other starting pitcher that the team added since the end of last season that is going to have any impact, at least on the big league team. Like obviously they added some minor league arms.
Can you even call Criswell a starting pitcher? He has 2
not really.
Starts. Yeah, 2.
They're gonna like that, but yeah, you're right, not really. So like where does that leave you, man? Like this team had terrible pitching last year. It was so bad that the bullpen burned out by August. And now you've lost 2 of your starting pitchers and haven't added any. So where does that leave you?
Yeah, this is legitimately, like, in my opinion, and people might think I'm being dramatic, this is a legitimate disaster. You saw last year, we've talked about this 1,000 times. I won't go over it again. Bullpen completely burnt out by the end of the season, but by the last 2 months, I should say. And that's because the starters didn't go deep into games. You signed Giolito. I would say the main reason the Red Sox signed him is because he is the poster boy, of course, for a guy who stays healthy and logs innings. And that's so Red Sox, he gets hurt. So I don't blame anyone. I don't blame anyone for him getting hurt and not being able to see that coming. Nobody saw that coming. That was the book on Giolito, is that he is reliable, durable, logs innings. Are they always the highest quality innings? No. But will he get you close to 200? Absolutely. And that's a weapon. Now you have to figure out, how do you replace those innings? And there's no singular guy in the organization who can, get you 200 innings or close to it. I would say even 150. So now you bring guys, either a guy like Criswell from AAA, or you have multiple of Houck, Whitlock, and Winkowski in the rotation, which now weakens both your bullpen and your rotation. So now not only do you lose Giolito, your rotation gets worse. And the way you patch it up is by making your bullpen, which is your strength, worse.
And so, hold on, Sammy, I'll let you continue. But you have to also factor in that not only are you making your starting pitching worse in terms of quality, because going from Giolito to, let's assume, Whitlock is a downgrade, but you're also replacing Giolito with a guy who's not going to go deeper in games. So while you're downgrading the bullpen by removing Whitlock from it, you're now asking more of the bullpen because Whitlock might go 5-6 innings. Giolito was going to go 7.
Yep. So it's not just the rotation. It is also the bullpen. And it's significant because the guy who's coming out, Gordo, you just said it, we think is going to be Garrett Whitlock. That was one of your few guys who could go multiple innings. And when you have a little bit of a shaky rotation that you're not 100% sure can go deep into games, a guy like Whitlock is super valuable. And I think the most painful part about this is that I don't think they're going to address it. I think they're just going to roll out the guys they have. And for me, the thing that gets me down, the reason I'm in such a bad mood for this episode today, it's not the guys they have on the roster. I like the players they have. It's the guys they don't have. You could go out there and sign a guy like Michael Lorenzen. He's going to blow nobody away, but he is going to pitch, like 130, 40 innings? That helps a little bit. Keeps guys healthy at least. Now we have to think about the health of these guys like Whitlock, Houck, maybe our friend Chris Murphy, Winkowski, who are now going to be asked to throw more innings than they're used to. How many times have we gone over this? Guys doing stuff that they're not used to doing. You're going to see even more of that for third or fourth year in a row. So it's just, I think people are understandably upset that Giolito's hurt and out for the season and some of next season. But I don't think the general consensus grasps how big of a hit this is, because this is pretty damn devastating. And we're not even at opening day.
Yeah. And another thing to consider is we saw it last year where the staff was always one injury away from needing to call on a cast of openers. Well, guess what? Let's fast forward. Let's say the staff as it stands, no one else gets hurt, and your rotation, Bayo, Pivetta, Crawford, Houck, Whitlock. Let's say that's your 5, and they have Winkowski in the pen throwing 2-inning intervals, and Criswell's in AAA. Now it's May. Garrett Whitlock goes down. All right, that's not a crazy assumption here. Garrett Whitlock has not made a full season healthy. Yeah, with an injury. Okay. Not a significant one, but maybe like he's going to be out a month. Now you have to ask yourself, what do you do? Does Josh Winkowski start the next game? He's been going 2 innings, so now maybe you're going to push him to 3 and slowly build him up, which is going to crater your bullpen? Or do you reach into AAA and now you're going at Cooper Criswell and like we have no idea how good he's going to be? Or if there's another injury, like this team, I mean, they have better AAA pitching depth than they did last year, but it's not like they're one injury away from right back with the stuff that they said we were not going to have again.
Yeah.
With the openers and like the 2-3 inning intervals and the pockets. We heard that term so many times last year, the pockets. We are one injury away in season from getting to that again. And that sucks.
Last 2 episodes ago, I said how I liked that they signed Jason Alexander, who's kind of like a 29-year-old journeyman from the Brewers, because he was like a safety net. Now he's not really the safety net anymore. He's like your
number 6 starter.
Dude, yeah. Have you seen, I was looking at him today because you posted a picture of him in the replies. I looked at have you seen his minor league stats from last year?
No, I just see,
ERA over 6 in the minor leagues last year.
Oh man, he does look like Genghis Khan though, you have to admit.
Yes, I agree. He does. And I don't know what that means for his pitching ability, but
so now your safety net is no longer the safety net. He's your 6th starter, and Gordo has just alerted us that he had a 6 ERA in AAA. Now, I don't want to go too deep into that. I don't really think ERA is a great way to measure guys in the minors because things are different down there, but it's not a good sign. So I would be much more comfortable if they signed a guy like Lorenzen, who pitched over 150 innings last year. You could even go for a guy like Lauer, who missed time last year, but is supposed to be healthy now.
They should.
Just a guy to eat. And I'm not even thinking in terms of contending. I'm thinking in terms of keeping guys healthy and keeping guys in roles where they can succeed and maybe build in the positive direction and not have another fucking 78 win season, which is what we're trending for once again for the 3rd year in a row, 78 wins. Oh my God.
I feel like it goes without saying, this completely eliminates them from Jordan Montgomery. In no world do they sign Jordan Montgomery at this point.
So I said today, I don't think it really changes much. I'm still kind of in that camp. I'm slightly less confident that they'll sign him, But Jordan Montgomery was never really like, this guy gets us over the hump in 2024. For us as like a podcast, it would have been like fun and, you know, you have a little bit of a better chance. But if they sign Montgomery, it's kind of like when they signed John Lackey. They weren't quite contending, but they were like, oh, yo, we feel like we're going to contend soon. And that's what happened. So do I think it decreases the chance? Very slightly. But
Sammy, think about it, though. John Henry was already so skeptical of investing in this particular team that he clearly does not think is a playoff contender. And now, and this is what's so frustrating, because, like, in my opinion, even if they sign Monty, you can't even get all that excited about it because it just puts us right back where we were, which I think is what John Henry is going to be thinking, because now he's going to think, what, I'm going to invest in this 30-plus-year-old pitcher, and the first year, probably his best year with us, even if he pitches really well, he's not even going to be able to elevate us into the playoffs.
See, I've always thought that John Henry thinks like that. This doesn't change it for me. I've always thought he doesn't think that Montgomery is going to get them into the playoffs in 2024. If he signs here, I think it would be for 2025, 26, maybe 27. That's what you have to convince John Henry of.
But why wouldn't you just wait the year? If you're going to do it, why wouldn't you just wait the year then?
Oh, you might, but like, are you going to find another guy like Montgomery, a guy who logs innings, who's steady, who's not a stuff guy, who you can say this guy's going to age well, kind of Lackey-ish?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, there's good pitchers, but you don't know.
Wheeler's off the market. Fried, you assume, is going to get a good offer from the Braves. Corbin Burns, no reason to think Baltimore is not going to try to bring him back, their new ownership. So I think it makes a lot of sense still to sign Montgomery. It wouldn't be for 2024. It would be for 25, 26, 27.
How would you do it? Would you sign? Hold on. Not do you think they will, but would you do it at this point, knowing what you know? Giolito's out. Would you sign Montgomery or would you wait?
No, I wait till next year.
I think I'm with you. I would be happy if they did it, just because I would be so happy to see them like showing signs of caring. But like if I had the choice between signing Monty now and doing whatever this year that he can help this team do, or waiting and instead of needing one pitcher next year, you sign two, or maybe make a trade and sign one or whatever. I'd rather do that.
My thing with this is there's no guarantee they even spend next year. Like, if they're spending, I want them to spend on someone better than Jordan Montgomery. I want them after the Frieds of the world, the Walker Buehler. Like, if you're spending on one guy,
but
that guy cannot be Jordan Montgomery.
But you need both. You got to get Montgomery.
That's what I'm saying. But if it's it's assuming they spend both years. In that case, then yes, I'm with Sammy. I don't think that'd be the case.
Okay, so you're saying if they only get one guy, it can't be. Yeah, I agree. That can't be your one guy.
Exactly.
But I think it's like you get Montgomery this year, reevaluate, and then you get your ace next year. But then we might also have the same conversation again. We'll get there.
But I was also in the camp of I only thought that they would sign Montgomery this year if John Henry could be convinced that, hey, this guy might get us into like the wild card situation. That's the only way I ever saw them signing Jordan Montgomery. That is completely out the fucking window at this point.
Agreed. And I'll get on my soapbox a little bit here, but doesn't this feel so stupid? Like, I feel so dumb in a way having the Jordan Montgomery discussion at this point. Like, I almost feel as if, like, could you imagine if back in 2018, you remember how bad the Orioles were in 2018? And I know the Red Sox are not that low, but in a sense they are, because they're not one player away from getting out of last place. I'm not saying getting into first place. They're more than one player away from getting out of last place. Could you imagine if back in 2018 we heard all the Oriole fans clamoring about needing like a Montgomery caliber starting pitcher back then? It's like, we need Monty. And we'd just be sitting there with Mookie and JD and Xander and Benintendi and Devers. And we're just going to be like, you guys want Monty? Like that? Congrats. You're going from fifth place to fifth place. That's what we are right now. We're talking about Monty.
That's not a fair comparison. I don't think that team was like 18 games worse.
I agree.
That team was awful. Like,
but Sammy, it's the concept though. It's signing Jordan Montgomery right now would take them from a projected fifth place to a projected fifth place.
But that's what I'm saying. It's not for this year. You lock him down this year with the thought of, okay, this is going to be our guy next year. Get him used to the place. Boston's tough to play, and it's not a reason to sign someone early, but it would be a long view kind of signing. That's always how I viewed it. Would it make it more fun for us in 2024? Sure. But if you sign Montgomery, it's always with the thought that, like, this guy's going to help us win a World Series down the road. He's going to be our salty veteran. Again, I think he'll age well. There's no reason to think he won't. But then there was also no reason to think Giolito wouldn't get hurt. So who really knows? So
he's 31.
I'd still go for it. I think it makes sense. Give him 3 or 4 years. If you give him 3 years, then you have 2-year window with that guy on your roster as a steady number 2 or 3 starter. Nothing wrong with that.
He's 31. He's a pitch to contact guy, which I understand why you're saying you think he's going to age well. I do tend to buy into guys aging well that don't rely on super high velocity fastballs. Like, I like Jordan Montgomery, but I guess we can't really have proper takes on this without knowing what their budget is going to be for the years to come. Because I don't want them adding this money now on Jordan Montgomery when they could invest in a guy who's 29 next year or who's 30 next year. And then when you're ready to compete, you've got a 30-year-old instead of a 32-year-old. These are pitchers. We just saw how fragile this is.
Do you think it's one thing to have like a bad roster and not upgrade it and your team falls out of contention and it sucks? On the other hand, do you think it's neglectful in the way of putting guys at risk for getting hurt because you're going to be asking them to throw way more innings than they're used to? Just like last year, saw it happen to our friend Schreiber. Like, I feel like John Henry doesn't give a flying fuck about anyone or anything relating to the Red Sox. I can't even believe he's at spring training. He probably had to probably carries a roster around with him so he can match the numbers to the players. No clue who they are. It's just so frustrating. I hate caring so much about this team and feeling like the people in charge don't care. Or let me reframe. The number one guy in charge doesn't care. I think that everyone else involved cares. Just feels like John Henry couldn't give a shit. He probably didn't lose any sleep when he heard about this last night. So whatever, John.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree, Sammy. And it's weird because it's an injury, but the injury highlights so much of what was wrong with the way they built this team. And I feel bad saying they and how they built the team because Breslow built the team, but he built it under the parameters that were set for him. And the fact of the matter is this team was built to only compete if every single thing went right. And we've talked about that so many times. Like, every team has a bunch of things, and we'll say an average of 7 things where it's this guy could be good, but he could also stink. And a lot of them are often pitching, or a lot of them are often pitchers. This team and the good teams are going to be good if 1 or 2 of those things cracks in their favor. They can afford to have 5 swings and misses as long as 2 of them go right. The Red Sox, we saw last year, so many of the things that needed to go right went right, but one thing went wrong. The health of the pitching staff went wrong. I'll say 2 things went wrong. The health of the pitching staff and Corey Kluber went wrong, but everything else went right, and that got them in last place. That was a team where every single thing needed to go right, and that's where they are again this year. And this is what makes it so hard to accept, because a big thing, in fact, maybe the biggest thing that we needed to see go right has already went wrong, and there's no turning it around. It's not like Giolito struggling in spring training. He's not here. He's gone. He's not coming.
Would you feel like we were back where we were at a day ago if they signed Michael Lorenzen? Because I feel like Lorenzen is more likely to put up decent numbers, but less likely to hit that much less likely to hit that Giolito ceiling.
I wouldn't feel like we were back to where we were, because I actually do believe in Lucas Giolito. I put a list out. I was looking at old tweets at one point, and I had a list of which pitchers do you want, order these guys 1 through 10 for who you'd want to see the Red Sox pursue. And I had Giolito ahead of Sonny Gray. I really like the guy.
What about him?
Swing and miss stuff. Big dude. Good to work with. Has that pedigree.
For me, it was the innings, which is why I'm saying.
Yes, that too. But Lorenzen can be a good starter for you, but he doesn't have that ceiling, and we need to see that.
I don't think he's
I like him though. I would sign him. I would sign him. That's who I would sign. The best guy you can get on a 1-year deal. I don't know if I'd pay Jordan Montgomery a big 5-year deal, but I would pay any 1-year guy. Get the best 1-year guy in here, and like you said, protect your guys. Protect your pen.
Sammy, going back to your question about negligence and like risking injury, I just did like simple, like super simple math. Let's say on average, a reliever throws 15 pitches an inning, right? Really good reliever, like Wink, guy who goes maybe an inning or two every time he goes out. That's 1,200 pitches in a season. If you turn that guy into a starter on like a 4 or 5 inning count, that's 120 innings, which is not like a crazy number to ask from like a back end starter, especially a guy you're trying to stretch out. Also using 15 pitches an inning, that's 1,800 pitches. That is 1.5 times as much work as they did the year before. Yeah, you're going to have some fucking injuries. It is negligent. It's ridiculous that it's to this point.
Yeah. And this is why I was happy when they signed Jason Alexander. Is he good? No. But can he keep your guys healthy by logging innings? Sure. Now they need another one of those guys. Hopefully better than Jason Alexander. Lorenzen, I think we all agree, would be the move. And it's so sad that we went from how do we get this team to contend to who do we sign simply so more injuries don't happen. It's crazy how much this Giolito injury impacts the entire roster. It sucks.
Yeah, and I mean, you talk about them caring. We're gonna find out soon just how much they care, and they have not to this point, before the injury or after. They've talked both before and after, and never ruled out an addition. So we don't know if they will make an addition. We don't know that if they do make an addition that it's because of Giolito or if it was something they were going to work on beforehand. But I tend to agree, Sammy. Like, you can't, for the sake of your team's success, for the sake of asking guys to do too much, for the sake of keeping your bullpen fresh. And I know they've got better bullpen depth than they've had in years, but for the sake of all of those things, they need to get a starting pitcher. And it doesn't need to be someone that's great. If it's Eric Lauer, it's Eric Lauer. But you have to do something to add to this roster.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Sure.
All right. So I posted to you at the beginning. This is a little behind the scenes for folks. We've already talked about this question, but I've got a little bit more complexity to it because I was thinking before the show to myself, boy, things have not sucked this hard for a while in Red Sox Nation. And hearing Sammy talk the way that he did, I felt that way literally all offseason. I kind of have had the expectation that things have sucked. I'm not saying I'm the smartest guy in the world. I just went super pessimistic. And now, like, it's just snowballing, so it's great. But I think it's like definitive now that this is the lowest this organization has been as far as approval rating by the fans and also outlook. Probably since like post Aaron Boone walk-off 2003. And we talked about this at the beginning. It's definitely not as bad because in 2003, you had the optimism that you were just in the ALCS. You also had the optimism that you had Pedro Martinez, an incredible pitching staff, and you were coming under new ownership that wanted to do something big. David Ortiz, something big. This is completely different. As low as it was then, there's not really upside right now. And it's now making me think, since this has never been seen before. Like I don't think any of you guys can think of a worse time right now to be a Red Sox fan or to be somehow linked to the Red Sox. Like, it sucks to be us doing this podcast right now. I don't know about you guys. I love seeing your handsome faces, but it sucks to get on here and say the same shit every week that the Red Sox aren't doing anything. It makes it difficult to be a fan. Do you think something dramatic is about to happen? Because you have to have something that.
What do you mean something dramatic?
Just something course correction. Kind of had hoped that Theo Epstein was the course correction.
No,
but I think it requires a major signing, or it requires a massive dump of prospects for a guy that's not a free agent.
Yeah.
Like, are they going to sell off Marcelo Meyer at this point? Are they going to sell off Roman Anthony? Are they going to sell off Kyle Teal? Because I don't know what to expect, because I don't think John Henry has ever been in this place before. And I think we are going to get a John Henry that we have never seen. That's not to give him credit. That's because he put us in this poopy situation.
The difference giving him a lot of credit. So 2 answers. In terms of like approval rating, legitimately the only thing I can think of is after 2012. Bobby Valentine nightmare. They sucked. Like their only free agent signings were like very mid-level at the time, like Victorino, Napoli, like these mid-level guys. Kind of.
But you fire, like you have the good graces of firing like John Valentine.
But you have the
like,
good graces.
You fire Chaim Bloom, you get the good graces Valentine. For a bit. Bobby Valentine, John Valentine. What the hell? Hey, much respect to John Valentine.
The second part of that, John Henry doesn't give a fuck anymore. Like, there's nothing coming. There's no reinforcements on the way. If the soonest something happens is next December, which sucks.
I agree with that.
Like, this is in history. This is the point where they're like, all right, you know what? Fuck this. And they trade for George Kirby, like these like guys that you fantasize about. This is kind of when they've historically been like, all right, you know what? Enough of this shit. We're done. They're past that point. There were plenty of guys they could have had if they thought that they were in any form of hot water in the past, like they are right now. They do make that move. They're not in that mindset anymore.
That you nailed it. That's the exact difference. 2012 Bobby Valentine disaster. He's gone. New manager. Make additions. Address the issue. Years past, like trying to think of a good example. Like 2006 was a little bit lackluster. 2007 they reload. It doesn't feel like they care. This is the same shit from the last 2 years, and they've done nothing to correct it. So I would say, Coop, yeah, this is the worst it's been since pre-2004. And additionally, it's no longer pre-2004. We know that this organization can win World Series, multiple. We've seen 4 of them. So the standard is much higher, as it should be. You're the Boston Red Sox. You're not the friggin' Oakland A's. So that's what's really getting to me, is that this is not pre-2004. We expect more. In the past, we've seen shit get addressed. This has just been laying there, and we're ruminating on how it's going to go wrong next. It's just... how many times are they going to do this before they finally decide, like, hey, maybe we care about this baseball team? We're an ownership group that's won 4 titles in one of the most diehard markets you're ever going to find. And still, the fan base fucking hates us. What have we done wrong? That has to matter. At some point, John Henry has to realize that he has a beating heart and a soul somewhere in there, and that he should care about this friggin' baseball team. But all 4 of us are sitting here agreeing, yeah, we don't think they're going to do shit about it. They're just going to let this ship burn.
The other thing, going off of Sammy, that he mentioned is they don't care. If they cared, if the fans weren't enough the last 2 years, there are now national baseball writers and media members pantsing John Henry daily, and he's done nothing to kind of change that perspective.
The NFL Combine, they were making fun of Red Sox ownership.
That's what I'm saying.
Like what the fuck, man? Have a spine for once.
He's now reached the point of, like, throughout the entire sports world, like a meme.
Yeah.
Like everyone pantsing him, mocking the Sox, all this shit. Giolito getting hurt will not change shit. It's going to take next year or this summer when no one is showing up. He's not making money. You're looking at next year. You're looking at November, December. Yeah. That's when maybe we see course correction.
But,
maybe.
Yeah, but that's the problem, though. How can you believe, like, where I was at for each of the last, 3 years? And to answer your question, Coop, the only time I can think of that I felt worse than this was when they traded Mookie Betts. But at least at that time, I felt like there was a plan and a commitment, and they just knew that they had to do something, and it was going to be unpopular, but they had to get out of cap hell. So they felt they had to do it. I felt that they still cared at that time. I felt that they still cared until this offseason, and that's why I feel lower now than I think I ever have, because I can't trust the future. Like, you could sell yourself, like 20 2012 going into 2013, yeah, Sammy, you said it. They fired Bobby and they made signings, and like maybe they weren't the biggest signings, but they were trying. Now you don't know if they were going to try. That's the difference between then and now. And maybe a course correction happens next offseason. It's not going to happen now. Like they're not going to course correct now, but they might next offseason. But I don't know how you can count on that because this was the year to course correct. They fired Heim. This was the time to do it, and they didn't do it. So I think you're doing yourself a disservice if you're expecting it.
And that's why we're pissed. And there's going to be a subset of people who are saying, oh, these guys play testy. They're overreacting. They're freaking out. We're freaking out because we've been saying all offseason that everything has to go right for 2024 to be watchable, just for it to be watchable.
I honestly, I don't care about the takes.
Wrong. It's already gone wrong.
Sammy,
and we're
Sammy, don't care about the takes. Don't worry about the takes. Because you know what? This season sucks no matter what. No one is right in all of this. Like the only person wrong is John Henry. And it's just like the fact that anyone out there could ever be like, hey, I thought you guys were high on this team. Like, that's ridiculous.
No.
Like, at the end of the day, like, we just want to see this team win.
No, I don't care. I'm saying to those people, where was I?
Sorry.
We were saying everything has to go right just for this team to be watchable in an entertaining way where you think, hey, they're playing for something. It's September. Hey, they're playing meaningful games. Do we think they're going to win the World Series? No, we're not delusional. Do they have a shot? Technically, it's enough for us to still want to tune in and be enthusiastic about it. And now stuff has gone wrong. It's not even the first day of the regular season, and we don't expect it to be amended in any way, shape, or form. So that is why we're pissed. It's not because of the team. It's because of the ownership not addressing the team.
The big thing this year too, and we said this on the onset of the offseason. There was very, very low chance of the team from last year making enough moves to be like a legit like World Series contender. We never that at any point were like, oh, you signed these two guys, you're World Series bound. Like the thing was though, this was supposed to be one of a stepping stone year. Right now, you lock in a couple of those mid-level guys that you need. You extend the young guys. You bring in guys like Montgomery. You bring in guys like that. You fill your holes. That way, you have a at least competitive baseball team next year. Then a year from now, next year, you are that ace away. You are a Max Fried, a Corbin Burns away. You are a year into the ideally. Marcelo, Roman, Kyle Teal, these guys have the big league experience playing alongside these long-term pieces set in stone, Bayo and Casas. You supplement that with free agent guys like Montgomery, like whoever else. So then next year, you have guys locked in. You add the 1 to 2 pieces you truly are missing, and that's your core, that's your team for a nice 5-year window. While the younger guys who are still fucking disgusting are getting better. You have Blaze coming up. You have all these guys on the way. That's the Dodgers route. You had the Dodgers blueprint right in front of your face, and you said, fuck that 5th place again. This offseason is a nightmare.
Yeah, and Pat, they basically what you said. In a perfect world, they've pushed it back a year unnecessarily, and that's in a perfect world, and it's for no reason. And with that, because they haven't extended guys like Casas and Bayo, you've essentially shrunk your window because you can push it back a year, and you're not losing a year of Marcelo and Anthony and Teal, but you are now losing a year of Casas and Bayo. You're wasting a year of Devers Prime. And to get back to that point, Coop and Sammy, you guys were talking about a little bit about how like maybe this could come off as an overreaction. But the fact of the matter is this conversation that we're having here, like this little freak out that we're having, this was going to happen at some point this year. It was going to happen when something went wrong and it became evident that the team wasn't going to contend. And like in the world, I'd imagined that conversation wasn't going to happen until like June. Like we could kind of live in blind hope for a little bit. And then maybe like Cutter Crawford goes down and Whitlock is struggling or something. And it's clear that this team just doesn't have it. And then we have the freak out conversation about how they didn't do enough. And we're in the spot because they didn't do enough. It's crazy that we're having it on, what is it, May 5th? Yeah, or March 5th. It's March 5th, and but it was going to happen. This conversation was inevitable. And it's crazy because I think back, like, literally to when that Nightingale reporter, I think it was Nightingale, about Montgomery and the Red Sox potentially being like executives think it's going to happen. And I was literally thinking to myself, I was like, wow, this team is going to have a strong bullpen, and they're going to have Montgomery, Giolito, and Pivetta eating innings, and maybe Bayo can eat innings too. And like, they'll have all these innings eaters to keep the bullpen that's already really strong. It'll keep them fresh. Like this, they could actually have a chance because they're going to have all these guys going deep into games. And since that, now it's like they shouldn't get Monty. They probably won't get Monty. Giolito's gone. Your only innings eater is Pivetta. All these other guys haven't gone more than 5 innings on average ever. Now it's like the bullpen's gonna, like, it's crazy how fast it can come tumbling down in a fan's mind. But that's just how it feels.
And Gordo, you know what makes this even worse is you say that you expected this conversation, this freak out to happen at some point. We've talked all offseason about how many question marks this roster has. And that's why you expected this conversation, this freak out to pop up at some point. Giolito's health was not one of those question marks. And it's already the biggest issue. This sucks. This sucks so bad. It feels like luckily it's baseball. Anything can happen in baseball. Never going to call a team cooked before the season even begins. But holy shit, does it feel like they're dead upon arrival. It's so painful. The atmosphere here in Boston, I live near Fenway. Gordo, you live near Fenway. There's no buzz. Nobody's wearing their Red Sox gear. Nobody cares. There's no chatter. Normally, I have a bunch of my buddies. They know I love the Red Sox. Text me, what do you think about this year? I've got like 2 texts. People want to hear about the team. Nobody cares. So not only are they bad, people don't even give a shit. It's like John Henry's aura is infecting everyone, and I hate it. So,
dude,
yeah.
I was in Stoughton. Have you guys ever heard of Town Spa Pizza in Stoughton?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So yeah,
Good
that place
spot,
is
good
awesome.
spot.
Shout out Town Spa. I was there this weekend, and when I was there, I saw 2 people wearing Red Sox shirts, and I said to Marissa, I was like, "Oh look, my God, like 2 people wearing Red Sox shirts," and like I wasn't even like I was trying to like make a joke, like I wasn't even trying, like I was legitimately just like, "Wow, like look at this, like they're wearing Red Sox shirts."
So that's funny. When I lived on the West Coast, every time I'd see someone with Red Sox gear, I'd be like, "Oh, look, Red Sox fan." But now it's like,
now
wait,
it's
Sammy. Well, actually, this goes out to Gordo as well. Did you guys ever give like a not so much Pat because you didn't live outside of New England, but do you ever give like Go Sox to people that are wearing Red Sox hats or shirts?
when I'm not here. When I'm not here, yes.
Yes.
In Coop in college,
DC, I used to do it all the time.
all the time.
I
What
had
if
a
we
guy-
did that to each other? What if we did that to each
Oh,
other
we definitely
back
did.
in
I had a
college?
guy
We might
my
have done that.
freshman year. I was holding a Dunkin' Donuts iced coffee cup, and I had a Red Sox hat on, and this guy in a Cubs hat comes up to me and goes, "Oh, good old Boston boy. I'm sure you can point me to the closest Dunkin'." And I was just like, "Don't go to the one down there. It's shit. Go to the one over here by the Red
That one
Cross
did-
building."
It did suck.
It did. The one in Gallery blew.
Yeah. And for reference, Coop and I went to the same college at the same time and didn't know each other, and to our knowledge, never met.
We had to have come across each
We might
other.
have. Pat, what Pat's got something. What do you got?
Yeah, you underestimate or overestimate, I should say, the amount of Red Sox fans in Connecticut. It's slim.
No, I know, but you're not as caught off guard when you do see a Red Sox hat.
Definitely not as, but there are definitely times where I'm
Episode 1,
Are
we
you
did the
saying
Battle
go-
of Connecticut. We're not doing this.
Are you
All I'm
saying
saying
go
is
Sox when you see
it's
people in Sox hats? Are you saying go Sox?
75 to 80%?
Pat, answer the question.
I didn't hear what Gordo said.
Are you saying go Sox when you see someone with a Sox hat in Connecticut?
Depends where. Like at the gym, if someone's wearing a Sox hat, yeah.
Okay, where would you not say it?
Like around like college camp, like where I know people are from other states, like at school, like no.
See, like I could
people
be up
from
by the
Mass,
Capitol
Northwestern
building and
Mass,
I would
whatever.
give a Go Sox.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like outside, like if I'm in like a place where Connecticut residents reside and I see it, yeah.
I'm going to do a quick fun exercise because now I'm just thinking about my time in DC being a Red Sox fan. We need something like, before we move on to anything else, we need a pick-me-up. Can you guys each name off like your favorite like Red Sox moment outside of Boston? Because I have one in my head. What?
Winning the World Series in 2018.
Tim, you can't be that upset. This is to cheer you up.
No,
Fuck
it doesn't.
you.
It makes me angry. Everyone's like, "Oh, watch this old video." I'm like, "No, this just reminds me of what it should be like now." It's crap. Fucking sucks. No, my favorite one would definitely be. It has to be other than like a World Series. You want to say?
Yeah.
Maybe not my favorite, but I thought it was sick when the Red Sox beat the Tigers in the ALCS in that, I forget, I think it was game 5. It was just a Napoli solo home run off Verlander, and that was it.
I was in 7th grade.
I love that. Nothing happened.
Awesome.
It was just like Napoli, nuke. Okay, that's it. Just thought it was a funny Sox moment.
I remember, I would say probably me. I remember it vividly. It was freshman year of college. I was in honors writing, and I got the notification that the Red Sox signed JD Martinez. And I left class, like, called everybody I knew. I'm like, oh my God, they fucking got him. Like, that was probably mine. Coop.
Yeah.
What's yours?
When I was my sophomore year, spring of 2018, little old intern Coop up on the hill, full suit and everything. There is a picture if you go to my Twitter. It's buried somewhere. I am in a Red Sox jersey with a blue dress shirt and a Red Sox tie, and I'm just bebopping my way up to my little hill turn ship. And it's opening day, and I just spend the day in my office watching baseball games with the other staffers. And that was the very first day of the 2018 season, and I was just like, no idea what I'm in for, but this is a whole lot of fun to kick it off.
They lost.
Yeah, no, they did.
And
But
then they won a
historically, they always
gazillion in a
lose.
row.
They what is it, like 3 of the 4 World Series they lost opening day?
Oh, I don't know that one. I believe you though.
So it's good luck when they lose.
Yeah, they lost that game, and I want to say won like what 15 out of. The next 16
I
or
went
something
back.
Crazy.
I went back to your fraternity's townhouse to make steak after that game.
Steak.
Yeah, you were in ZBT or not ZBT. No. What was the one that Cleary was in?
Lambda Chi.
Yes.
But I may have been out. I disassociated at some point. I think I had just disassociated at that point.
That was like spring of 2018. So I was making some steaks, eating some potatoes, and for Mitch Moreland.
Steak and potatoes.
God damn, that was a good time.
Speaking of Moreland, that might be my favorite one. Was his game tying home run in the World Series. It's one of two things. Either that, I did a shirtless belly slide across my apartment floor when he tied that game, or when the Sox traded for Chris Sale, I picked up my roommate and threw him against the wall.
I rode my bike around DC and up to the Capitol building when they clinched the ALCS. I don't know why I went up there. I just went up there. That was fun. Rode my bike. Anyways,
this has been some good positivity, I suppose.
Yeah, we needed it.
I miss
Sammy, how are you doing?
Fucking terrible. I can't wait for the season to be over.
Sammy, do you want to?
You know what? You saw I put in the group chat today. I turned down $17 Red Sox tickets today. My friend got Angels tickets, and he's like, "Hey, you want to go see Red Sox play the Angels? Might be the last time we see Mike Trout." And I was like, "Do you have the tickets?" And he said, "Yeah, $17." And I said, "No, I'm good. I'm only doing freebies this year."
Honestly, hey, that's mindset grind set. That ticket price is probably going to go down. Bad investment. You can buy later on.
Yeah. I really want to see mid-30s Mike Trout and the shit Angels play the shit Red Sox at Fenway Park.
Have you seen are you guys into like being like, oh, I got to see that guy play?
Yes,
because I'm very much that way with Mike Trout.
I had to make sure I saw Ohtani pitch last year on Marathon Monday, and he only threw, I think, 2 innings. It might have only been 1, but I got to see it.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I don't really care. I just kind of want to see the Red Sox. That's literally the only thing I care about is if the Red Sox win. I don't really care who plays.
You just want to hear a certain song get played?
It's just a sick.
And it's not Sweet Caroline.
I like Sweet Caroline. I'm not a Sweet Caroline hater. But
only
yeah, I like. It's cool to see other players, but I'm not there to see them. I'm there to see the Red Sox.
Sammy, you want to do your enough said? You guys ready to jump into some enough said?
Yeah.
right,
My enough
let's hear
said
it.
is Craig Breslow. I've asked this question before. Going to ask it again. This has been a fucking disaster of an offseason. Craig Breslow was the 27th option as GM. Fantastic. And he was, like Kenley Jansen, lied to by ownership, we think, about the spending limits. And now two of his big acquisitions are hurt, Giolito and Grissom. Do you think he regrets taking the job?
I don't. I think a young, up-and-coming, smart executive like Breslow has a long view of these things, and I think that it would be his hope that 10, 12 years down the road, he's still in that chair, and this year one of everything seemingly going wrong would just be a blip on the radar. I do think they lied to him in a sense, but it's TBD how big that lie truly is, because we need to see what the spending parameters are in future years. I don't think he took the job thinking that they were going to be all in this year. And Pat, you said it before, like this was never going to be like a World Series winning team. And I don't think Breslow pitched that. I think he thought that maybe they could get Yamamoto, but I don't think he thought this was going to be an all-in season. Maybe he thought they were going to have a little bit more financial freedom, but I don't think he was brought in thinking that this was going to be the year. It sounds like they believe that the spending is going to come back at some point. And so until we see that not happen, I don't think you can say that he would regret it. Like, this is a guy, a young first-time GM. Like, he basically jumped 3 levels to take this job. These jobs don't grow on trees. If it was like a Dombrowski seasoned exec, like they were able to hire, I don't know. If they hired some seasoned exec who's had a bunch of success before and told him they were going to let him spend, and then he comes in here and he didn't. Like if in 2016, 17, when they hired Dombrowski, he came in and they were just like, no, we're going to cut off the well. Like, yeah, he would regret taking that job. He would regret leaving the Tigers job to take that job. But with Breslow, like, he has a unique opportunity to prove himself to the baseball world. His priority first and foremost is to fix the pitching infrastructure, build a pitching pipeline, and that is going to be like a 3 to 5 year process. And that doesn't change with the Giolito injury. It doesn't change with ownership spending or not spending. Like, this is something that's at the top of his priority list regardless. So maybe come back to me in 3 to 5 years if they're still not spending and building that pitching pipeline has been harder than he anticipated, then maybe the answer is yes there. But it's so early. Like, we need to see a lot more before we can get there, in my opinion.
Going off of Gordo, I do think he regrets taking the job.
Oh, you do?
I do, because I think that, like you mentioned it, I do think that he was straight up lied to. At his press conference, ownership and himself confirmed. They were like, we're doing anything and everything. There's no set budget, all this stuff. Then once it's time to actually spend the money, he's given this budget. He had the cushiest of cushy jobs in Chicago. He was living in Mass. He was part of a front office where all he had to do was identify great pitching additions. He had a year, 2 years from now, especially when guys like Cade Horton are up, killing it, Justin Steele killing it. Like, you kind of follow that pitching development in Chicago back, and it goes to Craig Breslow. He's now a very hot commodity. He could have a very good job somewhere else if he had waited a year or two. So I think for him to kind of jump ship in Chicago, he had to have been told, here are the keys to Fenway, do whatever you need to do. And then once it came around to actually doing it, they were like, oh, by the way, you have $15 million to spend this entire offseason. Ideally, we get off of a lot of bad contracts, and we're really going to focus on the minor league system still. I think he was lied to. To him, it's not fair. And then B, if he had waited a year or two.
That's an assumption, though. That's an assumption.
It is.
Whole conversation is assumptions.
But with how things are going in Chicago in this kind of uptick in Alberto Alzolay, Justin Steele, Cade Horton's a stud. Like,
oh yeah, his guys aren't even up yet. When Breslow's rocket arm guys get up. By the way, Pat, you mentioned Adbert Alzolay. He came up as a starter. His stuff didn't play as well as a starter in the majors. They sent him back down. He came up as a reliever. His stuff played up. Then they made him the closer, and he was really good at it. And now he's remaining the closer rather than them trying to put him back into the rotation. Isn't that a crazy concept? And now they have a young closer for the foreseeable future. Isn't that nice? I really like that concept. He found a niche, and he's really good at it, and they're keeping him in it.
What do you think, Sammy?
I don't think he regrets it. I think he thinks a lot differently about the job. And I think it's trending towards him regretting it because of all the things Pat said. And I don't know if you guys watched the spring training game today. I finally had a chance to watch one with the audio on and everything. He was interviewed by with Tom Caron and Will Middlebrooks. Coop, I have that right? I believe that's who it was. And
Correct.
It sounded like his dog had just died. He was so drained sounding, just like repeating the same old tropes over and over. We believe in the guys we have. We might experiment. I thought this was funny. He goes, we might experiment with a 6-man rotation. With who? Which 6 guys are in the rotation? And then he goes, we're going to have to get creative with our pitching. You have to be a lot less creative if you actually sign a rotation of pitchers. Crazy fucking idea. No, it's not his call. So can't be too upset with him. But yeah, he sounded miserable on the broadcast today, which is why I posed the question.
So
cool.
I kind of agree with Pat that he might have been lied to. I think the Red Sox have been lying to a lot of people. I mean, you saw it in the Chaim Bloom era when they never wanted to say that they were buyers or sellers, because as a business, why are you going to devalue your product to your customers? I mean, like, that's just a reality of it. They're going to try, and I'm not saying they lie to you. I'm saying that they market their product to you in a way that's favorable for them, aka lying. So of course they're going to want to bring in someone to do the job, but they're not going to tell them, hey, where all the bodies are buried, because he's the one that's going to have to bury the bodies, and you're going to want this person to do it willingly. And I just tweeted this out, something I don't do too often anymore, but can you imagine if the Red Sox hired Kim Ng and left her out to dry with these resources?
Oh, man, that would
because she was a heavy favorite, and everyone was wondering why she wasn't going to become the GM or why she was never interviewed.
But that's what I was saying. That
would be such a bad PR look for her to go from the Marlins, who openly disgraced her by saying, hey, you can have this role and you're going to bring us to the playoffs, which is cool, but we don't want to actually pay for you to do we want to pay for you to do your job, but we don't want to pay for you to do your job.
Well, actually,
if the Red Sox had done that, that would have been such a worse look.
Yeah, no, for sure. I also had this Marlins guy on YouTube. I forget the name. He broke down like why Kim Ng got fired. They're going to suck for like years.
A while.
Yeah, because of like some big contracts that she left. And then like the way that it's the way that they line up. It's really, really, I won't even get into it. It's really like nitty gritty, like boring to most baseball people. But she did put a good field on the team for 2 years, but they're in a absolute disaster mode right now, which is why I think everyone was like, hey, Marlins, trade your pitchers. So that's not to say that Kim Ng's a bad GM. I just think she had some screw ups.
I think in a big market like the Red Sox, she can make those type of moves, but you also have to have an owner that's willing to pay.
Dude, they're not a big market.
That they have the resources?
I'm sorry. Is that crazy? Is that?
Yeah, now it is. It is now. Welcome, planet Earth. We're here. This is reality, man.
Oh God! I actually feel really bad for Cooper Criswell because I feel like he's just signed with the Red Sox and he's become a punchline.
He's the face also, of like everything bad. He's the face of no free agent signings, and he's the face of injury because now is when Breslow says he's a candidate.
I want him to be good. I really want Cooper Criswell to be good. One, so that Coop has a good representative for the name, and two, like
I was so happy when he was signed, man.
It's
It was so incredible.
That's the bomb.
I was just like, oh, the Red Sox are gonna suck, but at least I'll have something cool for this
Sort
season.
of.
it's
You
even
I
better
can't
though.
enjoy anything.
It's even better though because like for sure when he signed here, he was like, "Oh, nice! Like I'll start off in AAA. Like
Big
I'll
league
start to be
contract.
on a major league team." He's like, $1 million. That's cool. 3 months later, he hasn't thrown a pitch yet. People are like, fuck him, fuck him, like just screaming at him. Like I feel so bad for this dude.
Dude.
People are just shitting on him.
God, Gordo just called him the face of everything that's wrong.
I feel like that's a bit
It's
extreme.
crazy.
I feel like John Henry is that face.
It's not his fault. I'm just saying that, like,
Oh, I get what
It's
you're
not
saying.
his fault. It's
correctly.
just his face.
good God.
No, that was good. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Pat, you have enough said?
I did. Shit, all this.
I could go and you could,
Yeah,
you could
go.
think of
Come
it.
back to it. I forget what it was.
Mine isn't that long, but I saw it on Twitter today that the Cavs are playing the Celtics right now as we're recording this. And it's in Cleveland. And if you went to the game, you get this like double bobblehead of Travis and Jason Kelce
What?
at the Cleveland Cavaliers game.
But
They're
yeah,
giving
from
that out.
Cleveland.
Are they from Cleveland?
They're
that
from
would make
Cleveland.
okay.
Yeah,
Then
they're
that
from the
makes me
greater
feel
Cleveland. They're not from Cleveland. They're from the greater Cleveland area. I know my Ohio facts.
okay. I feel less bad
Most
about it
truck
than I
stops
did.
in the country.
I still think it's lame as shit though. Like, give me a break. Give away a bobblehead of like, I don't know, Johnny Manziel or some shit.
Joe Thomas.
Yeah, Joe Thomas, man. Before and after the weight loss, that's how you do the double.
Oh,
This is a
right.
tough look if you are the 76ers or the Oklahoma. Or no, that's Oklahoma. I was going to say the Thunder, but Kansas City doesn't have a basketball team.
St.
The
Louis
Royals.
does not have a
The Royals,
basketball
the
team.
baseball team.
Oklahoma would be the closest, wouldn't it? Or would Chicago?
What a selection.
I don't know geography.
No, I think it'd be Oklahoma.
You know what's funny is I could probably like name you every country in Central Asia and like Middle East and stuff. But if you were like, what state does Oklahoma border? I'd be like, I got no clue.
Nebraska.
Sure. I buy it.
It is, yeah.
What do you guys think of
Jack, the other one's
oh.
yeah. That's nice.
What do you think of Travis's hair? That's the
Nice.
Kelsey.
That's nice.
Oh God.
Shaq,
Yeah,
I
so-
do-
get out of here with that. No, I fully back my original take. I don't care if they're from Cleveland. Get that shit out of here.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. But you have to remember, not every city is Boston, where we're like, hey, we fucking hate everybody else.
Yeah, the
It's
Cavaliers
like-
going to put up their Guardians bobblehead night because they don't have anything to celebrate.
Dude, give me a Shane Bieber. Give me Jim Thome bobblehead night and he's
want
wearing a
Shane
Cavs jersey.
You see that viral video of Jim Thome today? Where
Yeah,
no.
it's like from 1990, and he was like, everyone thinks it's Jim Thome, Jim Thome, it's Tomey. You guys didn't see that on Twitter? I saw it 1,000
No,
Yeah, I
Jim
did.
Thome was trending today, though.
It's because of that video. It's Tomey. I'll send it to you guys.
That sounds
I
like
don't think it's not because of that video.
It's not because of that video.
Yeah.
What happened? Oh, is it not podcast
He
appropriate?
killed someone.
No, it is. Wait, what?
What?
No, I'm kidding. Jesus, guys,
You
I'm
killed
kidding.
No, I
I'm
was
kidding.
because the
All right.
Coleman.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
it what?
It was
Uh,
a joke. Jimmy Thome is an innocent man. He's a great man. He did not kill anybody. That was a joke.
So
He's the
why
home run
is
leader,
he
top 10.
why is he trending?
Kirk
Uh,
Minahan, all right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
What's
friend of
that?
the program?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I legit don't know. I've heard of that show, but I don't even like.
Yeah.
What? Kirk Minahan, right?
Off air. Off air.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right, Pat-
I know it's a controversial. Oh, we'll talk later.
Pat, you got
It's
enough
not
said?
controversial, not at all. Don't let anyone clip anything.
Yeah, I do remember what I was gonna say. So today I took lunch, and then that's when I found out Giolito needed Tommy John. Jaron Duran was hurt. Every single free agent target the Patriots were linked to got fucking tagged today.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one. Well, Mike Evans signed the extension the other day, so that was out the window. Jalen Johnson was a guy that they mentioned, tagged. Josh Allen was a guy that was mentioned, tagged. Brian Burns was a guy, transition tag.
Michael Pittman.
Michael Pittman. They're like, hopefully like Brandon Ayuk becomes available, because I
Yes.
pray to God they don't play. They're not planning to pay a 30-year-old Calvin Ridley. That would be very, very bad.
I'd pick Calvin Ridley.
I would pay him.
It's
I
NFL.
would not pay him what he's going to get as the number 1 free agent wide receiver.
Yeah, he's gonna get paid a bunch, but they have a bunch to spend. Like,
But Christian Kirk got 21 million. Calvin Ridley is gonna get more than that.
that's fine, dude. You're gonna have to pay. So I would prefer a trade and pay, but like, if
But
you
then
want someone
also,
now,
I'll be curious to know you guys' take if you even have one. I was stunned that they tagged Kyle Duggar over Michael Onwenu.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I have no clue what the tags mean.
okay,
It just
yeah,
means
it
it's
was
essentially like a
confusing.
qualifying offer, but
Yeah, but
they have
that's-
to sign a qualifying
There's
offer.
two
Duggar-
different tags.
Duggar
There's
what?
there's like the franchise tag and there's the transition tag. The franchise tag guarantees that he's with you. The transition tag is what Pat said. It's like basically like a QO, and now the Patriots have a chance to match any offer Duggar gets.
Yeah,
And that's
it's
what they did.
essentially they slap a tag on you to make you a restricted free agent.
I'm the biggest Kyle Duggar stan for the Patriots, so like I loved that they did that with him instead of Onwenu, but I feel like I'm the only one, and I know the O-line is like a glaring need, so like I get it, but I just fucking love Kyle Duggar. So
That's a good point, but also the Red Sox still need pitching.
yes, I agree.
Can,
How funny is
there,
it that
are there tag backs? Or are there no
So-
tag backs?
there's no tag backs.
No tag backs?
No tag backs.
Okay. Is
Am I
Breeze
having a
tag?
stroke? What's happening?
Wait, what? I'm lost.
Do you guys never play tag backs?
I got that.
You play tag?
Yeah.
Got you like no tag. Yeah, it's just so you can't.
How's rules? No tag backs?
Yeah, you can't
Yeah,
just go
no
back
tag
and
backs.
forth.
Yeah. Pat didn't have a childhood.
Coop, you got
Yeah,
enough
I don't
tag?
know what the Patriots. I don't think anyone knows what the Patriots are doing, which is fun.
Okay,
Coop, you got enough said?
Sox, baby.
All right.
Hell yeah.
I appreciate that as enough
Wait,
said.
wait. Are the Patriots a team with glaring needs and a lot of money to spend?
Yes, and they
Oh,
proclaimed
wait,
they were
that's
going to
enough
spend
said.
it. Okay, yeah, go.
Yeah, so I had this like thought pop into my head earlier when Sammy was talking about like how John Henry could win 4 World Series and everyone still hates you. You could win 4 World Series. One of those World Series breaking an 86-year-old curse, and then continue to not spend on your team for 5 straight years, making everyone hate you. And then another owner who you have had a rivalry with this entire time because he has been more winning than you and more prolific makes a complete hit piece about a coach that everyone loves in the region. And yet you are still the more hated person. Like, it's wild that the Dynasty documentary happened. Like, that's just a giant hit piece on Bill Belichick. I don't know if any of you guys have watched it.
I've watched it,
but all my friends who have watched it say it sucks.
Supposedly, though,
Yeah, I don't enjoy
that.
it.
So no. Supposedly, that was an NFL Network or an NFL video film, and it was completely produced by NFL Films, and the Patriots had no say in how it was produced.
It's a craft production.
But in the
You're
I'm
talking
pretty
about
sure
the flashback videos. Yeah. That I watched that like coincidentally like last year, just like for fun. It was actually kind of entertaining. Like you actually got a pretty inside look at like what they were
Not
doing.
so much the flashback, but I mean like the whole point of like the Dynasty documentary is like just centered around trying to put Robert Kraft in the Hall of Fame and
Yes.
saying that all the bad things that happened while he was owner happened because of Bill Belichick. Like he literally tried to accuse Bill Belichick of being the reason why Aaron Hernandez became a murderer. Like that was
people are
wild.
saying that. I didn't get that. Everyone else is saying that.
Well, if Bill traded him, no one dies.
But they didn't say that. They just said that Aaron Hernandez tried to get traded and Bill didn't do it. No one in the doc actually said, "Yeah, man." And I guess. Oh wait, no.
But like,
who is that? It was the journalist, the investigative journalist, kind of said it.
the
But that
Boston
was it.
Globe guy.
Yeah, he said it.
Yeah, that was. He didn't even
said
have any facts behind it. He was just like, "Yeah, I feel like that's on Bill," and it's just okay.
like,
I feel like I don't know. Man walking on moon is actually thanks in part to Abraham Lincoln. I just
He
feel
goes, Bill didn't trade a guy and now someone's dead. That's what he
Yeah.
said. Oh God.
I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of Robert Kraft right now. I'm sure that'll hurt his feelings. That's my enough said.
Who's
But
higher?
John Henry is
Who's
still more hated.
okay? I was just gonna ask you that. Okay. Anything else before we wrap this thing?
Nope.
Sammy, say it.
Fuck.
Oh, that's not the one.
Oh, you wanted me? Did you want me to say, "Sponge me, boy"?
Go away.
Let's see.
Maybe a bit more of that secret formula.
This
And
kid is
on
one of
that
the
note-
best. He's one of the best at impressions I've ever seen. But on that note, this has been a highly upbeat episode of Play Tessie, episode 48. Appreciate you tuning in. But before you leave, before you click on something else, remember, hit that subscribe button. If you're listening on Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, hit that subscribe button, rate us 5 stars, leave a comment. If you're on YouTube, hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to WEI. Follow us on all of our socials at Play Tessie on both Twitter and Instagram. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Yeah, not the most upbeat episode, but got to do what you got to do. That's just the way of the nation right now. This is what it's going to be during the season. If they play well, you'll get upbeat podcasts. If they don't play well, you're going to get more of this. We're never going to bullshit you around. We're authentic Sox fans. Like, we react to this shit just like you do. We want them to win. We want them to be good. It's not trending that way right now. It doesn't mean it's impossible, but we don't feel really good right now. We're not going to sugarcoat it for you. We're just going to tell it like it is. And we did it today. So appreciate you guys tuning in. If you made it this far, appreciate you making it all the way. But for Coop, for Sammy, for Pat, it's Gordo here. Play Tessie, episode 48. Thanks for tuning in. Toodaloo.